And Janine, do you see slides?
I see Lauren's screen that's flashing through. So it says that she's recording and she's sharing. So we're ready to start. Jennifer?
Okay, great. Thanks, Janine. Okay, hello, everybody. Welcome to today's webinar for IBM Bluemix Beta academic members. Our speakers today will be Lauren Schaefer, Growth Hacking Engineer and Social Media Lead from Jazz Hub, and Ferez Saracevic, Lifecycle Architect and Storyteller. Today, they're going to introduce you to Jazz Hub, show you a demo on how to deploy applications on Bluemix, and share how you can enable your students to set up automatic deployments from Jazz Hub to Bluemix. Following the demo, we'll have lots of time for Q&A. The webinar today is being recorded, so please put yourselves on mute if you're not speaking. Questions may be asked within the chat of the live meeting, or you can save them until the end. Now, let me turn you over to Ferez and Lauren.
Thank you. So as Jane said, my name is Ferez Saracevic. I will be instructor for today's session, and Lauren will act as a student.
So we're going to. This is Chris. Sorry to interrupt, but I'm getting a message now that it hasn't been started. The session hasn't been started, at least. I've installed the applet, but when I get a conference error, it says the meeting hasn't been started yet.
Probably you should restart your browser in that case. It means that the installation probably went successful, but something disrupted the session. So
right,
could you just restart the browser and try it again?
Yeah, let me try that.
And if that doesn't work, I would try with a different browser. Okay, so let's continue. As I was saying, I will play instructor, professor, and Lauren will play a student. So we wanted to have kind of a live demo for you. Before the demo, we have just a couple of slides to go over to introduce you to the Jazz Hub and Bluemix. And Lauren, could you turn over to the next slide, please? Well, as Janine said, one of my roles is a storyteller, and I prefer to use that name. And I'll tell you a story of the Jazz Hub. So prior to the Jazz Hub, I was working as a scenario designer for collaborative lifecycle management. It's another platform that, in essence, was used to build Jazz Hub. In 2009, 2010, we stand up that platform for academic institutions and open source community, and we kind of left it to see if there would be any interest. A couple of years later, we had over 1,000 projects, and people are using that community quite lively. At the same time, we've seen a trend in development communities that they are gravitating towards the cloud. They don't want to keep their code. They don't want to keep their environments on their laptops because it might happen that the laptop crashes or something changes. So they are changing how they're developing, and they're changing how fast they're developing. So they're not working on projects that last for years. They're not working on projects that last 6-7 months. They actually work on projects that last a few weeks, sometimes even days. So we kind of looked at how we can change our dynamics and build the tool sets, build the application to help developers, that particular mindset. Since we already had a Jazz Hub in a cloud, we tried to extract information from the project and see how that would benefit us. We also try to see what other interesting technologies we have in IBM, and that's how Jazz Hub, a new generation of Jazz Hub, started evolving beginning of 2013. We also wanted to build this platform keeping a lean principle in mind, and we were doing a lot of experiments. So we would build something we would test with the users, get a feedback, and then would make modification and deploy it again. So what we will be showing to you today is probably like 6th, 7th incarnation of the Jazz Hub, and the platform is continuously evolving. You will see it when you start using it that quite frequently we have some new features, new updates, and it's very dynamic environment. But the core functionality that you have is still present. So what we wanted to do with the Jazz Hub is to create a platform where developers, startups, individuals who are interested to learn about coding could use this platform to build everything in the cloud. So starting from that premise, what we've decided, we want to provide them capabilities that those individuals need. We don't want to add too many features, but we want to have the right set for them to be successful. So what we thought is one of the things would be a critical part is we want them to have ability to plan and track their progress. So we added the agile planning and tracking capabilities. What it in essence means, you have a full-fledged agile methodology built in the Jazz Hub. So if you are interested to work as an agile team with the sprints, with the product backlog, you have those capabilities out of the box. You also have very rich task management capabilities. So if you are an agile team, you will create epics, stories, tasks, retrospectives, and so on. Another thing that we wanted to do is we want to provide you a development experience in the cloud. So instead of having your ID on your desktop, we wanted to provide you those capabilities in the cloud. We heard a lot of people, that's probably not something that I would use, but after our experiments with Web ID, we noticed that people are actually saying that this is kind of interesting. I might be able to use these capabilities, and that's how Web ID became part of the Jazz Hub. Another thing is we wanted to provide the capabilities that people know about. So a lot of capabilities that you see in a Jazz Hub are technologies that most of developers these days are used to it. So we provide our hosted Git platform. If you are interested to use the GitHub that you might already utilizing, you do have that capability as well. And in that case, when you look through the Jazz Hub, your GitHub repository will show up as a folder in your project structure. So those are kind of three core capabilities. One is agile planning and tracking, SCM source code management capabilities, and Web ID. On top of that, there's a lot of additional capabilities like dashboarding, the ways to communicate as part of a team, and so on. And we'll be seeing some of those features. The last piece that I want to mention about Jazz Hub is also that we meant this platform to be open and free to the users. So today, Jazz Hub provides free public project creation for unlimited number of users. So in essence, if you want to build your projects publicly that everyone can see those projects, they can learn about those projects, they're free. Individuals are not able to make the changes to those projects unless you allow them to join a project. We also have a private project where the project owner decides who will be a member of that project. In that case, no one will be able to see the project unless you are added to the project as a project team member. And that private project in that case would be a fee-based. Right now, even the private projects are free. We are planning to introduce a fee-based mechanism later this year. But from your perspective, that's what we have available today. Now, as we are developing the application, a lot of times people have started asking us, well, I developed this, but now I need to deploy it. Do you have something that we can use for deployment? That's when we started working with another part of IBM that was developing a deployment platform, and that's how it came connection between the Jazz Hub and the Bluemix. And the Bluemix, in essence, is your deployment platform, and there are multiple deployment platforms that exist today. Could you take the next slide, please? Bluemix is right now a code name. What will the final name of this platform be on the end? We still don't know. I like the Bluemix, but just for your information, this name might change in the future. The Bluemix provides an open standards cloud-based platform where you can build and deploy your applications. You can utilize a number of services that Bluemix has today. One of those services is the Jazz Hub. Another service might be specific application server, database, some specific services that you might be interested in, like you want to have some type of a notification, you want to use specific framework like Hadoop or MongoDB. We also provide you a set of boilerplates. So if you are first time starting with a project, you might actually utilize the boilerplates to create your Node.js application. So in essence, we give you a simple code that you can run through, and pretty much everything would be sufficient for you to see how that application can run. And then where the Jazz Hub would come in the picture is if you want to modify that code and make modification to those code in the cloud. So that's a couple of things that I just wanted to briefly go over is about the Jazz Hub and the Bluemix, what's the relationship, and that's what we call a DevOps platform. You have Jazz Hub where you develop, and you have a Bluemix where you actually deploy your platform. You will also notice that we have recently renamed the Jazz Hub DevOps Services because it provides a number of services, as I already said. So you will see more and more that the Jazz Hub will be positioned as a DevOps services. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at our demonstration, and Lauren will take us through demo how we could envision some of the universities that would run and utilize the Jazz Hub and the Bluemix. She will basically position it from a perspective that professor have already created a project that students should be using for their exercises. And at this point, I will turn it over to Lauren.
All right, thanks. So part of my intro is, let me just give you guys a little perspective about me. I'm Lauren Schaefer, and I am an engineer on the Jazz Hub team. But it wasn't too long ago that I was in the university. In 2007 and 2008, I was a teaching assistant for the software engineering course at North Carolina State University. And it's a really intense course. It has a series of homework assignments. Most of them are paired, and there's a big, team assignment at the end. So I know what a pain it can be sometimes to deal with handling servers and setting up teams and that sort of thing, and it was really time-consuming. So the nice thing about Jazz Hub is that it takes all the servers work off of you and your TAs. It puts it on us, and then your students can actually set up their teams themselves. So that's one of the reasons I really like Jazz Hub, and I think it'll be a really great benefit to you guys. So as far as said, we're going to start with an example project. And the idea here is that my instructor, Farah, has already created a base code for me to work from. And what he wants me to do, the first assignment, is to just take the application and get it deployed to see it running live. So I've gone ahead and I've navigated to the application here, and this is what we call the project homepage. So you can kind of see a variety of things on this page. You can, preview the code here. You can see who the members are. But let's go ahead and dive into the assignment. So I'm going to click on the Edit Code button. And what this does is brings up an editable version of the code. So here on the right, we can see the README MD. It just includes any instructions you might have about about the assignment you want your students to know. Those could go here. So as a student, the first thing I want to do is fork the project. So I'm going to give it a name. I'm going to call it Homework 1. And looks like I already named it that. Homework 1 Demo. And I'm going to make it private. So what this is doing is taking a copy of the sample code and it's putting it into a new project for me. And right now it's a private project, so I'm the only one who can see this code. So first thing I want to do is actually see the application running live. I want to test it out. So I'm going to click the Deploy button. And you get a dialog here, but typically the defaults I have here are great, so I'm going to click Deploy. So when I say deploy, what it's doing is it's taking my code, it's bundling it up, and it's pushing it to Bluemix, which is our cloud platform as a service. So it'll take it and we'll be able to see the application actually running live in the cloud in Bluemix. While that's going, the first deployment, it takes a minute. It's shorter after that. We've got this manifest file you might see here. Basically, the manifest provides instructions to Bluemix to tell it where you want the application to be, how much memory you want it to have, how many instances you want running, that sort of thing. It's just your basic set of instructions. So our sample application already had these instructions here, so we were good to go. It looks like my application finished deploying, so I'm going to go back to the project page, and I'm going to scroll down a bit. And here in the middle of the page, you'll see we have this manual deployment information. It tells me the name of my application. I can click to link to see the logs, and I can see the status is green, which is always great. So let's click on the link to open the application. So it looks like everything went well. Here is my sample, and this is basically, it's a very simple sentiment analysis app that pulls in tweets and tells you if they have a positive or a negative reaction. So Justin Bieber usually gets some interesting results, so we'll test and see how the world's feeling about him. Looks like there are a lot of believers out there who still love Justin Bieber. Every once in a while you'll see an angry face, which always cracks me up. But looks like the world's feeling okay about him today. So the application is good. So as a student, what I want to do is make this application my own. So I'm going to go into the app.js, and I'm going to look for that welcome message. And I'm going to say, let's do this for Homework 1. I will save it, and then I'm going to deploy it again. Okay, and it finished up, so I'm going to go back and I will scroll back down to the manual deployment information section. We can see we've got the green dot of goodness, and let's click my application. And here we can see my change was made, my application is running, we're in great shape. So I'm going to jump back over to the Web IDE. We've got a few other buttons here we can click on. So I'm going to click on the Manage Application button. And what this does is it opens up my project inside of the Bluemix web interface. So the first page that comes up is the overview page. You can kind of get just a general idea of how things are going. You can click on the Runtime tab, and it'll tell you details about your actual application. So how many instances are running, your memory, anything like that. And then at the bottom tab, we have things like files and logs. So you can view your standard out and get details about kind of what's going on with your application. So I'm going to jump back up to the Overview tab, and I'll click Add New Service. The nice thing about Bluemix is that it has all of these different services that your students can leverage. So let's say that they needed to create an application that had a database on it. We already have all of these databases here you can use. They can attach like a MongoDB database and connect to it directly from within their application. I think there are several popular ones in here. We also have like a data cache service. I really like the Twilio service. It lets you send text messages, which I think is pretty cool, and I have a feeling students might enjoy as well. Okay, so I'm going to jump back over to the web IDE. So I edited my application. I viewed it live. It looks great. So now I want to turn in my assignment. So I'm going to push my changes to the Git repository. So I'm going to go over to the Git status page. Here I can see my change to app.js. I can do a comparison here, see what I changed. Looks awesome. I'm going to stage it. And I will commit it. And click Submit. And finally, I will push my change. So depending on how you run your classroom, students you could grade their assignments based on what's checked into their repository. You can ask students to provide a URL to their running application in Bluemix, or you could ask them to export their code and check it into whatever sort of a locker submission system that you have. So that's kind of homework 1. Now, let's say that homework 2 is about getting a little more interactive. So it's going to be a paired assignment, and the assignment is to set up auto deployments inside of JazzHub so that whenever someone pushes changes to the repository, the deployment is automatically updated. So since this is a paired assignment, the first thing I want to do is go over and invite my partner. So I'm going to go to the project homepage, and in the Members section, I'm going to click Invite. So I'm going to invite Faraz, since he's my instructor, and I'm going to invite my partner. And they will get email invitations. And in addition, the next time they log in, they'll see the invite in the JazzHub interface. So, so the assignment here is to turn on auto deploy. So I'm going to create a work item to track that. And a work item is kind of our Jazz term for any sort of work you might have. So it could be something like a task or a story, depending on how you're structuring your assignments. It could be epics, however you want to handle that. So I'm going to create a work item that says turn on auto deploy. And I will assign it to myself. Okay, so I can open up this work item, and it'll open up in our full track and plan view. So here you can change a lot of different things. You can plan it for different sprints or iterations. You can add an estimate. You can tag it. You can add a really detailed description, anything like that. But I'm going to keep it simple and just say that I've started working on this. All right, so now I'm going to go back to the project page, and let's actually turn on auto deployment. So I've clicked on the auto deployment tab on the left, and now I'm going to click this on button. And when you turn on auto deployment, it actually kicks off the deployment for you for that very first time. So we'll see here you've got this pending results running. And I'll walk you around the page while we're waiting for that to finish. So here we have a Git URL. One of the great things about JazzHub is that you can use whatever IDE you'd like to connect, you can use that. So in these examples, I've been using the JazzHub Web IDE, but if you want to use Eclipse, you can use that. If you want to use Notepad and then, use the Git command line tool to check in your code, you can do that. So it's really up to your students how they want to code. You can also choose, if you're using multiple branches, you can choose which branch you want to deploy from. Here we've got a link to our application, and then just some different settings that you can use. So it looks like our auto deployment finished, which is fantastic. So now I want to go, I'm going to be student B right now. I'm going to be the partner student. So I'm going to jump over to Chrome. And I've logged in as a different user. So I'm going to click on Invitations on the left. And I'm going to accept this invite to join the homework assignment. And I will click the link to open the project. So I'll click on the Auto Deployment tab, and I can see that my partner has turned Auto Deployment on. So I want to go edit the code and try it out for myself. I'll go to app.js, and I'm going to change that message back. Let's update it so this says homework 2 instead. So I will save it, and I'm going to go ahead and push that change. So I'll go to the Git status page. Here I can see my changes. These look great, so I will go ahead and stage that. And then I will push it. If I go back to the project homepage, and I'll click on auto deployment, I'll see I've got a pending result. Fantastic. So by pushing it, I automatically have this deployment running. So now it finished really quickly. So here's my deployment. I'm going to click on the link here to open the project, open my application, and I can see that my change actually made it in, which is fantastic. All right, so now I'm going to jump back over and be student A again. So I'm back in Firefox. I can refresh this auto deployment page, and we can see here my partner's changes. It looks fantastic. So I'm going to go back to current work. Here's the work item that I created to track this homework assignment. I'm going to open that up. In the discussion, I'm going to say, thanks for changing the message. The nice thing about work items is they have this really handy @message me, so you can mention any member and they will automatically receive an email notification about that message. And then I'm going to, so I added a comment, I'm going to mark this work as complete and I'll save it. So my assignment is done, I'm in good shape, and that would probably wrap up homework 2. So a couple other things I'll show you while we've got the live demo running. We've got this handy help tab here. We have 4 different tutorials that you can use. They walk you through how to get started, how to use different clients, and then specifically how to deploy to Bluemix, which is what I walked through here today. We also have a couple of different forums that you can use. So I'll click on the Jazz Hub forum. And it's a pretty standard forum. You can ask questions, and you usually get a response within about a day. And then the last thing I'll show you is this report a bug option down at the bottom of the help menu. And it's for reporting bugs, and it's also for enhancement requests. So if you have an idea of something you'd love to see, something that would be really helpful in your classroom, you can submit those as well. So I think that was the main part of the demo. Faraz, did you have anything to add here?
No, that would be everything that I think we wanted to demonstrate at this time. Of course, we can open now to questions, and we can take discussion in any direction that the audience would like us to take it. So let's just make sure we still have everyone present. I know some of you are using audio through the web meeting. On the left-hand side, you have a raise hand. Could you click on a raise hand just to make sure that you actually can hear and see this demonstration?
I still cannot see it. This is Chris. I've been installing plugins. I have a Mac, and then I went to my PC, so I'm just going back and forth to try to view what you were presenting. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Sorry, Chris. How about the rest of the folks? Only 4 hands. So left top corner, there's a raise hand if you were able to see the video. And now if you want to ask a question, you can go on the chat on the right-hand side and type the information. Make sure that you address it to all. So Chris and Octavio dialed in through the phone, and they can actually raise the questions directly. So Octavio, since you are on the phone, what did you think about demonstration of Bluemix and the Jazz Hub? Is this something that might be of interest to you? And the same question goes for everyone on the call.
Yeah, this is Chris. I guess it's hard without seeing the demonstration. But I guess my only comment is when assignments are set up with students, typically you want to be able to reuse those a lot as time goes on. So my only one question would be, if academia would use IBM's portal to teach a lot of courses or use lab exercises, how confident could we be that they would still be there a couple years later? Or would it be ever evolving to each time you taught you'd have to go out and recheck to make sure everything worked?
That's a good question. So the code that you add would basically be permanent. I mean, there would not be changes to code. What we are evolving is functionality, how to interact with the code, and the capabilities that you have on top of that. So that's the piece that is evolving, and it will continue to evolve. I would imagine that same on your side, as you're teaching, you would like to provide the students with the latest technologies. So when I was in a class, when I was at undergrad, I took a couple of computer science classes, and we pretty much kind of used the basic. Later on at my master's, we did have a Java classes. But these days, I expect we're going to be seeing some modern languages in the classrooms, Node.js, Go, those type of languages. Of course, you will still have foundation built probably on a C++ and Java, but we would like to see also these modern languages in the class. And that's why these new cloud platforms are ideal for learning them.
Yeah, understood. I just, because at least at Drexel, I can describe a little bit, is we're set up with we have course coordinators, and then sometimes we have adjunct professors that teach a course. So usually what I am looking for often, because I have courses with lab sections, but I teach a lot of the infrastructure courses, not programming. But you're kind of looking for something that you know is going to work for the students in a lab, and then you almost can predict the results in some cases. And then so that if an adjunct is teaching the course instead of you can hand them exercises and assignments that that are going to be easy for that instructor to give to the students, and have a pretty good confidence that it's all going to work, if you will. You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah, I understand. So
my only concern is, and I guess I'm being honest here, is you go out to IBM's website, this is how it looks, you know how to do that, you write up sort of a lab exercise, you hand it off, and then the portal changes, even changing the name from Bluemix to whatever. And what you've done is you've kind of written up some rules to the road, or here's what you need to do, and then you constantly have to update that material over and over again. Sometimes would it be a concern? Unless IBM's saying it's always going to look very similar once you engage and start using these tools.
I cannot say that's going to be always the same, but the functionality, that core functionality, will always be pretty much similar. But I understand where you're coming from and what you're looking for. So perhaps a solution on your side would be to kind of decide using hosting in a cloud, and perhaps teaching some advanced exercises using Bluemix and JazzHub, and then the rest of the exercise you would use like Eclipse or Visual Studio. So those are more static. So you don't have to upgrade the Eclipse. You can say this is the version of Eclipse I'm using, and it's going to be always the same look and feel from that perspective. And then if you want to be innovative, you can basically say one of the exercises is pick a couple of services from Bluemix and build a new application, or add new services to an existing application.
Okay.
Now, do you often build the course material, or would it help if we provide course material that you can utilize in the classrooms? And if yes, what kind of material would you be interested in? Is it for specific language?
Well, at least the courses that I teach, so I'm going to this Impact Conference, which I'm looking forward to, and I'm kind of representing Drexel. There's other professors here that hopefully I will help get engaged in this as time goes on, but I'm going to be the first one to learn about it. But the courses I'm talking about is how I got involved with this is we're trying to implement a virtual computing lab, which IBM is familiar with and NC State University as well. So we have a virtual environment to bring virtual images down to use for lab exercises. And part of my interest in the virtual computing lab is that a student can then go do a lab exercise and bring down like a Windows image or a Windows Server 2008 image or a Linux image or a different type of image, and I know that that image is going to look the same every time they bring it in to their environment and then do an exercise on that image. And that way it makes it easier to develop lab exercises. So we develop a lot of our lab exercises ourselves to complement the lecture for that week. And what I like to do is be able to have more interesting lab exercises in some cases, because I think when you're in the cloud, it's easier because you know each student immediately is going to get into an environment, and you may have some software installed in there. You might have the environment tailored to do a certain thing to help the lab exercise be more interesting. But every time a student goes and grabs that instance in that image, it's going to look the same way, so they're going to walk through the lab exercise. And I guess it makes it easier to have, like, expected results, if you will. So in other words, if they do the lab exercise correctly, these should be their expected results, and then you can say, you know, you did it correctly, versus they all do a lab exercise and they might get different results, and then you have to kind of one by one look at their results against and determine whether you think they did the right thing. It would be easier in our environment, at least the courses I teach, I think they have labs that are a little bit more where you can drive to expected results. And then you hand that to someone else, and they can say, well, as long as, you know, they do this right, this is what you should get. And then, you know, it's not as, I guess it's not as, it's much more repeatable.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, that does make sense from that perspective. If you're looking to have something more repeatable, you build it once and then you can utilize it multiple times. In that case, what I would suggest is look some of the solutions that we have for on-premise. You as an academic institution, you have access to those tools like Rational Team Concert would be a perfect. So the capabilities that we provide through the Jazz Hub, pretty much very similar capabilities and probably a bit richer, are also provided in that case. You would not have a deployment engine, but perhaps that's not necessary for what you're looking for. If you're building a Java app, yeah, you have your ID that you would interface. The Rational Team Concept would act in that case for the planning and collaboration, as well source code management. So at least the students would be exposed to those capabilities.
Okay, understood. Thanks.
Any other questions? I didn't see anything in the chat itself.
Could you talk a little bit about the currently supported application environments and where you think that's going to go in the future?
Sure. So right now, there are two paths. So if you're looking from a Jazz Hub perspective, Web ID itself is meant for model languages. So that's where we're talking about Node.js, Go, Scala, PHP, HTML. But independent from Web ID, you still can use the Eclipse and the Visual Studio. So in essence, you can pretty much use any languages that you might be using in your classroom, Java, C++, C#, and connect to the Jazz Hub and BlueMix platform in that case. It does become a bit harder with languages that you need to compile when you go to the cloud to deployment. That's why the model languages are ideal in those cases. If you're looking for services from a BlueMix perspective, those are actually evolving every week. When Lauren showed the services that are available, there were two more services that did not exist last week. And you're going to see additional services popping up over the next couple of months. Would that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you. And how would you position this type of class in a curriculum or learning path? What would potentially be the prereqs that students should have before signing up for the class, which incorporates this development platform?
Good question. There are two paths you can position it. You can position it as an introduction to the technology, and as part of the introduction to the technology, you would introduce them to the cloud technology. And part of this course could be that as you're teaching, you're introducing into the cloud technology, and you have some light exercises. What Lauren have shown. This would be type of a light exercise where you kind of are building a new application based on existing code. You don't have to have a lot of knowledge from that perspective. It's easy to repeat steps like that. If you are interested to kind of go from a grounds up, something to build from a scratch, something that's heavier in that case, so use the BlueMix and a Jazz Hub to build a brand new application, that could be some of the advanced classes.
And I think, too, when I was in school, I think our first level Java class, they just had us using something very simple like Notepad, and we, compiled it through the command line. But then once we got into, I think level 2 or level 3, we were actually using IDEs, and we were starting to use more advanced tools. So I think even if you're doing a very basic programming course, just teaching people how to program, as soon as they're ready for things like an IDE and source control, I think we're a really great option. You can use Jazz Hub as your tools for that without having to really emphasize the technology side of it. And we have a couple different source control options. We have a Jazz source control, which I really like. We have the option to use GitHub, which I know is very popular with students right now. And we also have the option to use Git repositories hosted at Jazz Hub. So I think there are a lot of options. So you could do from simple programming classes all the way to, more advanced things.
That's great. And I assume that as we get more users, because, again, we're in a beta stage right now, that we'll get some use cases and other things that maybe could help us as this evolves and grows in terms of where it's most applicable and what paths others have taken and how they've used it.
Are there any other questions? If not, I'll turn it over to Janine.
Okay. Well, thank you all very much, and a special thank you to our two presenters today who have helped us, those of us on the webcast, understand the demo much better. And I know that there's going to be a lot of follow-on replays of this. So, and we do have some other questions. So Javier, I'll get back to you. Once it moves into a commercial offering. There's lots of questions on the table right now. I do anticipate, though, that we will continue to have an academic offering that will be able to give faculty access to, for teaching in the classroom. So, absolutely, that's on the roadmap. Looking for where Jazz Hub goes. Again, faculty and students have been able to use our cloud platforms at no charge as part of their academic initiative membership. So I don't see any reason that we should anticipate a big change in that in the near future, but everything is up for discussion. So again, thank you everyone for joining, and we look forward to seeing those of you on the phone who will be at Impact next week. And thank you, and we can stop the recording now. And then if you wouldn't mind passing back the